Hi folks, Will from MinIO here with a how-to on getting MinIO bucket info using .NET. And in this video, we're going to be using .NET version 6. We're going to be connecting to play.min.io, which is our online sandbox for anybody who wants to work with MinIO can play around with it. And we are going to be running all of this out of Visual Studio 2022 for Mac. In this video, I'm going to talk about 3 of the various methods available for getting some information about your bucket. I'm going to talk about the get versioning async method. I'm also going to talk about the get bucket encryption async method and the get policy async method. And I chose these because the bucket that I'm working with actually has information about all of these. There are a number of other pieces of information you might want to pull down, things like the object locking, whether you've got replication enabled or a quota. And all of this can happen through these methods that work similar to these, but I chose these 3 methods because they have slightly different ways to handle the results. So let's go ahead and dive into the code here. Again, what I'm doing is I've got a very simple main method that connects to play.min.io and also handles any exceptions for me so that we can just focus on our code. And what I've got is this run method, which is going to work with our .NET demo bucket. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is all of these different async methods I'm going to call, they all take a very specific args object. And all of these arg objects, they really only have one field that I care about in this case, and that's the bucket name. The other field you can handle with some of these is the headers field, but I don't have any headers on mine. So really it's just the bucket name that is important to me in this case. So I'm working with get versioning args, get bucket encryption args, and get policy args. That's going to be our access policy that we're going to be taking a look at there. So what am I looking at with all of this? Well, the get versioning async, when I call that, it actually returns this versioning configuration, and that has a status in it. And that status tells me whether versioning is enabled or not. Slightly different is the get bucket encryption. When I get that result, I actually have to drill down a little ways to actually see what exactly the type of encryption that's being used on this bucket has been set to. But with the policy args just return a string, and that string is actually a JSON formatted string of policy. That is because of our S3 compliance. S3, when you set up a policy, is going to have that sort of JSON-enabled policy in the back end. And we're going to see that. I've actually set this bucket to use a public access policy, which is going to give us a lot of detail. If you have a private access policy, you either won't get much of a result at all, or you'll get a version date, which matches the S3 policy version, which is what our MinIO platform implements. So let's take a look at our code here. I'm going to go ahead and run this with .NET run. And what I get out is I have versioning enabled, and I'm using the AES 256 encryption standard, and I also have this very long access policy statement. This is actually the policy statement that you get if you set your MinIO bucket to be public. If I set it to be private, it would literally just say version, and then the statement would be blank. But you notice this is all JSON formatted in the policy statement. So if I was doing a custom policy, I would have to hand some JSON back in. So this gives me some bucket info out on play.min.io for this .NET demo bucket that I have already set up. I hope you've enjoyed our how-to on how to get some bucket info using .NET. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can connect to us with any of the methods you see here on the screen. You can always get interactive with us on minio.slack.com, or you can just leave a comment right here on this video. Thanks very much. We'll see you for the next one.